Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, giving infinite praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem, M'chakodash. Giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom and salutation to all you sincere Akims who cross the four winds, pushing this truth with sincerity of heart. I'm your fellow servant, Kasam God from the DC camp, coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem, M'chakodash, to feed the elect. Now, in this lesson, I want to go into an article that I seen a couple days ago, and it was very frustrating, but it's for edification and prophecy, more proof that we, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, are indeed the true descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the children of Israel, according to prophecy. All right, and in this article right here, you see it says, "Mom calls police on her 10-year-old son after finding out he's rude to his teacher." So you had a black mother, call the police on her 10-year-old son because he was rude in school. It says, a devoted mother who learned that her son was rude to his teacher decided to teach him a lesson in politeness that he would never forget by involving the police force. But what exactly had he done that warranted getting the cops to take him away? So, she decided that she couldn't handle him. He's acting rude, and she gonna call the police, which, it's a clear sign of what we've always talked about, right? When it comes to who black women believe to be our daddy, basically. It always comes down to calling some white man in a badge with a billy club and a taser or a gun to come and kind of suppress, the so-called black man. Would it be the so-called black boys or so-called black men, which are Israelite men, Israelite boys, are women dating back to the times of the plantation, dating, countless revolutions didn't take place because bad wenches, black women that laid with the master, basically let the master know that, it was going to be an uprising. That's why many uprisings never took place, because you either had the Sambo Negro, right? The Sambo Negro that was afraid to rise up against master. He would sell out. And then but for the majority of the time, it was the woman that laid in the same bed as you that sold you out to the to your enemy, to Edom, Esau. And this is, again, it's reoccurring. This is training. All right, this is mental training, psychological training, training your son to understand who his real father is, right? Because clearly his biological father is not around. Either he ditched her, or she ran him off. All right. Either way, he's not present. And she didn't even call him. She went straight to calling the police. So that's kind of where we are, and we've been in this place for a long time, man. So let me read this. It says, every action has a reaction, and sometimes to learn this, a harsh lesson is required. This is exactly what made Shaquita Hill, the mother of 10-year-old Sean, decided to take drastic steps after she learned what he had been up to at school. According to ABC News, Hill found out from her son's 5th grade teacher that he had been acting up in class, going as far as talking back, being rude and disrespectful, not listening, and failing to do his schoolwork like his other peers. The teacher decided to visit the boy at the home to get through to him. However, he had no desire to listen to what she had to say. So the teacher was also a woman. So his mother couldn't handle him. His teacher, a female, couldn't handle him. Back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, the majority of teachers were males. But then when feminism came about in the 70s, it switched up, and the majority of teachers became females. And ever since then, you can see the state of the school system, the educational system in the United States has fallen to its lowest level. All statistics. That's just facts. You can look them up. You can look up these stats. All right, so you have no male guidance. It's all female guidance, and they're failing. They're failing miserably. So now they have to call the authorities. All right. So let me see if we have a little bit more on this. It says, what did she do? After the exasperated teacher took her leave, Hill decided to turn to the police for help. See, she didn't decide to turn to Sean's father, the little boy's father. She said, nope, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to put you on training. All right. I'm going to train you to understand who your daddy is. All right. It says, so she called the Columbus Police Department and told them how rude and stubborn her son was. Well, ain't you the same women that when you trying to when one of us get our top blown off, you out here marching against the police department? But clearly, again, statistics have shown, and this is facts, this is not feelings, F your feelings. Statistics have shown nobody calls the police. Nobody, absolutely no one in the United States of America calls the police on a so-called black man more than the black woman. All right? Absolutely. Again, I'm going to say this again. Absolutely no one in the United States of America calls the police on a black man more than his female counterpart, the black woman. All right? You have recorded 911 phone calls. A lot of brothers that got smoked out there. All of it came from a call that either their mothers made, they aunties, their relatives, but most likely it was their girlfriend or baby mothers that made that phone call that started the whole process, and him wilding out, and then ultimately getting taken out. So this is just how, this is a curse. This is a curse, man. It says, after hearing the details, the police department agreed to send officers to Hill's abode. Just before they arrived, she let him know what was about to happen, but he refused to believe it, according to her. Sean didn't believe me when they showed up to the door. That's when it hit him. Of course, he didn't believe. He's sitting there like, there's no way. I know I'm acting out. He's a young boy, again, with no male guidance. He was like, there's no way my mother would call this man that's not a part of our race that, as far as he knows, he might know a little bit of history. Or he may not, but, instinctively, you know what your race looks like, and you know the difference, right? So you know how we've been treated instinctively, all right? Even little young boys know to act a certain type of way when they're in like white neighborhoods. They don't have to be taught that. It's their instincts tell them, hey, this is I'm around a different space, around a different race. So I can't act the way I act when I'm in the jungle, you know what I'm saying, with my own race. Because at this point, the hood is just, that's just all it is now. It's just a jungle, you know what I'm saying? So, but I wanted to talk about something I've brought up before, which is hefting, all right? Talking about sheep and how flock movement. I made a video about that. And then what you see right here, man, with this black woman calling the police on her 10-year-old son, which is a traumatic experience, but it's training. What she doesn't understand, whether she knows it or not, subconsciously, it's something that happens when you've been enslaved. You've been enslaved. And the women have always been used to basically make sure the males know where to go, know the limits, know who the master is, and know the limits of what they can or can't do. And when you go back to the animal world, this is something that's called hefting when it comes to sheep. So let's read about hefting. It says hefting, paragraph right there. It says hefting is the basis for shepherding on enclosed mountain and moorland in the British Isles. This uses the homing and herding instincts of hill sheep, making it possible for individual flocks owned by different farmers to graze open fields with no physical barrier between them. So you train the sheep so much that you don't have to put a barrier, and they would not escape. All right, the sheep will stay in that environment, they would stay in that place, and they would do and they would know the boundaries as to where to go and where not to go. but it's a psychological training. That's what's called hefting, and it's going to explain it. It says hefted sheep, hefted sheep or heath sheep, as they are also known in Cumbria, have a tendency to stay together in the same group and on the same locale area or fell. The heft or heath throughout their lives, these traits are passed down. See, the act of being hefted or being controlled, all right, to know who your master is, know the boundaries, to the point where we don't have it set up at barriers, psychologically trained. It says these traits are passed down from the iwi to her lamb. The iwi is the female sheep. All right, it's not passed from the male sheep to the lamb. It's passed from the mother. It's the mother that trains the young lambs to know who the master is, know the boundaries, and it starts early. And it's going to tell you. It says these traits are passed down from the iwi to her lambs when grazing the fells. In essence, the iwis, which are the female lamb, show their lambs, the young ones, where to graze. They show them where to graze. All right. It says hefted flocks are self-maintained flocks. The female lambs are kept to replace older iwis. That's why you have a succession, what's called a matriarchy in our community, so-called community. All right, the power gets passed down from grandmama to mama, and then mama becomes grandmama, and she'll pass the power down. You know, it gets passed down from woman to woman, and that's what you call, in the human realm, that's what you call a matriarchy. All right. It says the female lambs are kept to replace the older iwis, avoiding the need to buy in female sheep from other flocks. The sheep are acclimatized, which goes back to the word acclimated, to a particular terrain, weather conditions, and diseases that prevail in the area. They are familiar with the ways to find shelter and at gathering, bringing sheep down from the fells times, the way to the farmstead and back to their grazing ground. All right, so you should definitely look this up, man. We've been hefted, and that's what you call it. This is hefting. It's letting them know real young, right, that hey, this is master, and this is, you know, this is who will always shut you down. I could always call this man right here to shut you down. All right, when you get out of hand, when I cannot control you, he can always control you. All right. So listen, that's part of the curses, man. All right, that's part of the curses. This is Deuteronomy 28, and I want to go to 50. Deuteronomy 28, and first I want to jump to 54. Yep. No. 58 actually. No. 56. All right. Deuteronomy 28 and 56. It says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which is an Israelite woman, primarily the so-called black woman, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil towards her husband, right? That's why the husband is nowhere to be found, or the baby father is nowhere to be found, of her bosom, and toward her son. 'Cause that's evil what she's doing. She's training her son to fear, to not fear his dad, but to fear his mortal enemy, which are the Edomites. All right, and to recognize him as the supreme, force in the universe, to shut him down. It says, and toward her daughter, all right, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, all right, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. All right, so these are things that happen. Now, when we jump up to verse 32, right, jump up to verse 32, it says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given into another people, and thine eyes shall look. All right, I mean, although we know in a hardcore way it happened when, children were being snatched from their mother's hands and sold into slavery to different other masters, but if you're a father, man, and you seeing this, she gave your son to Esau, man. Look at this. She gave your son to Esau. Ain't nothing you can do about it, because remember, the woman has the final say so on the children. All right, the mother of your child can pull something like this, but you can't really stop her from doing it, because she has the final say so. That's what happens in the matriarchy, man. But the scripture says otherwise. And the reason why Jake is still destroyed to this day is because Jake does not, for the most part, Israelites, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, refuse to hearken to the words of the Lord. The answers are in the book. This is Proverbs 17:6. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. All right? The glory of children are their fathers. The reason why our children are messed up is because they lack fathers in the homes. But Esau, Edom, the devil that the Bible speaks of, knows that. Of course, he wouldn't allow you to have fathers in the home. He's your enemy. Why in the hell would he allow for strong Israelite men to be raised up from captivity to be, supreme rulers of the universe? Why in the world would he do that? He wouldn't be your enemy. He is your enemy. Therefore, he has to do what he has to do to keep you on a low level. By what? By elevating your women over you, by setting up a matriarchy. All right, so let's deal with the word matriarchy. All right, the word matriarchy goes back to government by a mother or mothers, form of social organization in which the mother is the head of the family and the descendants are reckoned or counted through the maternal side. That's why now a lot of our people, especially in the tribe of Judah, man, you talking about carrying your mother's last name, man, which is really, really effed up, because your last name is supposed to be your father's name. That's that seed, that's that sperm. But you carry your mother's last name. Your mother really doesn't have a last name, because your mother's last name is her father's last name. You know what I'm saying? So, man. And then it goes back to this right here. I have a whole bunch of images that popped up. That agreement going back to the garden. You know what I'm saying? Of that. Listen. This is something that happened all the way back in the garden, man. The black women, man, the Israelite women, beginning with the so-called black women, man. And again, it is what it is. I mean, when you go to war against an enemy, or an enemy wages war against you, these are the things that happen when you lose. All right, your women, 99% of the time, your women would betray you, because women are creatures of survival. All right, you could call them Israelite women and all this, but at the end of the day, women are women. All right, their nature is to survive, and a man's way of surviving is to be strong and to win the war. But a woman's way of surviving is not the same way as a man. A woman will acquiesce to whoever's winning, and and that's who she's gonna bow down to, and that's who she's gonna basically kiss up to. That's how women survive. They survive. That's why you cannot trust in a woman. It's not a wise thing to do, because it according to their survival, they cannot be bound by their words, because they don't have the power to just fight off the enemies. They have to join with whoever's winning. All right, so this treason, it's a treason that was to be expected. All right, it was to be expected, but it was worse, because hey, with us being a nation of Israel, the Most High is trying to teach us a lesson, especially teach the men of Israel a lesson. So what is treason? It says treason is the crime of attacking a state authority to which one owes allegiance. Right, the allegiance of the Israelite woman should be to the Israelite man, but she's made allegiance with Edom, Esau, the man who's had us captive. It says this typically includes acts such as participating in a war against one's native country, attempting to overthrow its government, spying on its military. Like I said, there was a lot of revolutions didn't take place because the Bedouins sold out the revolutionary brothers in the plantation to the master, and that's how these revolutions were quelled. All right, it says it's diplomats and secret service for a hostile and foreign power. So she shakes hands and she calls the hostile and foreign power to come out and subdue her son. Train him at a very young age. That's training. All right. It says a person who commits treason is known in law as a traitor. And that's what our women have been. And there's going to be a price to pay for that. All right. You committed treason. You went out there and decided to want Esau to show you love. Well, guess what? The Most High is going to make Esau flip on you. And that's why we coming into them times now, because Esau's not going to have, he's not going to take care of all these so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American women, because they're not part of the plan. They're not part of the Agenda 2030. A lot of y'all, you're going to have, part of the plan was to destroy us up until now, and then you're going to partake in the total destruction of the majority of Israelites, all right, in the final besiege. All right. So this is Jeremiah 4:30. It says, and when thou art spoiled, what would that do? Right. When the besiege happens, when Edom, Esau, when the so-called white man's armies move on the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American neighborhoods. All right. And this time he's going to move a wrath. It said, what you going to do when that happens? It says, though thou clothe thyself with crimson, though thou deckest thee with ornaments of gold, though thou rentest thy face with painting, in vain shalt thou make thyself fair. Thy lovers will despise thee, that will seek thy life. And I wanted to read one of the versions right here. I think this one that I really like. Which one was it? Here you go, the NLT. It says, what are you doing? Like, this is the Lord speaking. What are you doing? Speaking of Israel. You who have been plundered, right, man? You've been captive. You've been in slavery for over 500 years. But you sitting out here, especially beginning with the women, right? You trying to please Esau, trying to be a part of this new world order he got set up, and you willing to sell out your own men. It's like the scripture says, what are you doing? You who have been plundered. And our women were great, you know what I'm saying, doing slavery. We know that. That's the history. It says, why do you dress up in beautiful clothing and put on gold jewelry? Because, why you trying to look nice for this man, for Esau? Why do you brighten your eyes with mascara? Your primping will do you no good. The allies who were your lovers despise you and seek to kill you. All right. Of course, the scripture speaks to the entire nation, the men, the women in Israel, worshiping other gods and align themselves with the ways of the heathens. But you can take it all the way down to a micro level, right, dealing with the Israelite woman and the betrayal, because the betrayal that we did to Yahweh Shemel Shah is us Israelite men. It's the same betrayal that the Israelite women did to us. You know what I'm saying? So it's parallel, man. So we understand. That's why you get upset, but you understand. If you never turn your back as an Israelite man, if you never turn your back on Yahweh Shemel Shah, your woman would have never turned your back on you. You turn her back on you. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. That's why the only thing you can do is get right, and everything else gon' fall into place. All right. I'm just gonna close this out, man. But I'm gonna close this out with a comforting precept, because it's horrible, it's bad, but it will be good. Eventually, things are gonna turn around, man. So this is Psalms 128:3. It says, Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the side of thine house, and that's gonna be in the kingdom. Not right now. It's not gonna happen right now. The majority of Israelite women, so-called Negro, Hispanic, Native American women are they're not gonna make it. They're gonna die in multiple ways, from famine to pestilence, beast, ultimate, and dumb nuclear missiles. They're just not. The majority of them ain't gonna make it. They'll accept the scriptures. It says, Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the side of thine house, thy children like olive plants round about thy table. All right. So they're gonna die, but they're gonna come back. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna come back and know that the error of their ways, and it's gonna be all good after that. You know what I'm saying? It says, verse 4, it says, Behold, that thus shall the man be blessed that feareth the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shah. The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life. Because so far we haven't seen the good of Israel, man. And everything we know about King David and Solomon, that's something we read. Now, in reincarnation, we were there, but we don't remember the details of that. You know what I'm saying? So all we've known is the bad of Jerusalem in captivity and getting our asses handed to us by our enemies and our women selling us out. All right? That's all we've known. But in the kingdom, we finally going to get to see the good of Jerusalem, man, for eternity. All right? It says, verse 6, it says, Yea, thou shalt see thy children's children in peace. upon Israel, man. And that's what we waiting on, man. I just want to put this out. I just want to put this video out there, man. I ain't want it to be too long, but that's that. Like I said, this act right here, although she thinks that she did something that was good, but actually what she's doing is called hefting. It's training the young men, the next generation, to basically have supreme fear for their enemy, for their and to recognize Esau, Edom as their master. All right, so, and that's sad, man, but the Lord will rectify this. Yahweh Shah is on his way back to rectify this, man. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh Bashim Shah, double honest to our apostles, elders, a great millstone. Shalom.